Eagles Entertainment.
With the 15th pick in the NFL Draft, the Philadelphia Eagles select.
You're listening to the Journey to the Draft podcast.
Welcome to the Journey to the Draft podcast, presented by Life Brand. I'm your host, Fran Duffy, and we've got day 3 of action at the National Scouting Combine in Indianapolis as we have now shifted our attention to the defensive side of the football. Defensive linemen and linebackers took the field at Lucas Oil Stadium tonight. We're going to break it all down here on the show, and we're going to start things off with Pick 6, where Dane Brugler is going to stop by to give his 6 standouts from athletic testing. This is going to be a difficult job for Dane Brugler because I'm going to be honest, this was one of the more fun combine workouts I've witnessed, regardless of position, over the time that I've been watching the NFL draft process. This was a really, really fun night. Excited to dive into all these prospects with you over the course of the show. And we're going to keep it going with Draft Buzz, where Chris McPherson and I are going to share our thoughts from the drill work, the position-specific drills from those 3 positions. What did we see? Who stood out? We're going to get into all that there in Draft Buzz. Then we're going to wrap things up with Daniel Jeremiah from NFL Network, who obviously you hear every single day on this combine coverage from Indianapolis. But I caught up with DJ earlier this week just to talk about this edge group as a whole. So we're going to talk through a lot of the top guys, Trayvon Walker, Kayvon Thibodeau, David Ojabo, George Karlaftis, Aiden Hutchinson, right down the list. So we'll go through a bunch of those guys just to wrap up the show. Before we get started, as always, be sure to go rate, review, subscribe over on our Apple Podcast page, wherever you get your podcasts, anywhere you can throw us your support. Really, really appreciate it. If you've got a question, we will answer it here on an upcoming episode. That said, let's get things started. Like I said, a fun night of action to break down here. We're going to start things off with Pick 6 and Dane Brugler.
Now it's time for Pick 6.
All right, well, let's kick things off with Dane Brugler here in Pick 6. And Dane, you have a very tall task ahead of you because you have to pick 6 athletic test standouts from Saturday night's action. And it was a really impressive night with all 3 of these groups that took the field at Lucas Oil Stadium. So I'm interested to see where you go right off the top here.
Yeah, you and I were just talking how, we've been coming here a long time, and I have never had more fun during one of these workouts. It's just a lot of fun watching all these athletes go perform. And I got to start with my guy, Trayvon Walker. I took some heat when I put him at number 6 overall on my draft board, last month. And, I said him in the blurb, I'm betting on the athletic traits. And he didn't let me down tonight. For a guy that's 6'5", 272, to go out there and run a 4.59, just remarkable time. But it didn't stop there. 35.5 inch in the vert, 10.3 in the broad, 6.89 in the 3-cone. That's remarkable. 4.32 in the short shuttle. Let me repeat, 272 pounds, and he's putting up those numbers, 35.5 inch arms, 10 3/4 hands. Like I said, I felt very alone on that bandwagon when I put him that high, but I have a feeling it's going to fill up quick, and maybe I'm too low putting him at number 6 overall. So this guy is an absolute freak, and he should be mentioned with guys like Aiden Hutchinson when we talk about the top defensive player in this draft.
Yeah, I mean, and not only that, but the on-field workout, which, C-Mac and I are going to get into that after this. But I think, when you look at Walker, just go through the on-field portion, the position-specific aspects, he was outstanding.
Yeah. That hoop drill. I mean, part of it, his arms are so dang long that, he doesn't have to bend all that much. But still, the bend, the length, good God.
Yeah, he was really, really impressive. So one of many guys, though, that really shined here on Saturday. Who's number 2 for you?
Well, let's stick with Georgia. And apologies, we're not going to be able to talk about all these Georgia guys. Well, we easily could, but we have to go to Jordan Davis next. Maybe the most impressive defensive tackle workout we've ever seen. It's for a 341-pounder to go rip off a 4.78 is just remarkable. For context purposes, Fletcher Cox ran a 4.79, so not as fast as Davis. At 43 pounds lighter. And that was what Fletcher Cox did is simply remarkable. So that just kind of puts into context how amazing that run was by Davis. And look, I get it. We're going to hear, winner defensive tackle is going to have to run 40 yards. And well, how about, can I interest you in a 32-inch vertical, 10.3 broad jump? Those are elite numbers for a 300-pounder. Let alone a 341-pounder. So just a remarkable workout. The big question, I think, is it's still there. Can he sustain that high level of juice for 40 snaps a game? But with numbers like that, someone's going to try and find out very early, probably somewhere in the top half of round 1.
Yeah, I mean, a high character player, and when you talk about when you talk about those drills, it ultimately puts on display his explosiveness, his natural power that he's got in his body, and that's something that he was able to put on display numerous times, not just in the on-field or in the testing portion, but also in the position work. Really, really impressive workout overall from Jordan Davis. And to me personally, we were watching, and I turned to actually to Greg Cosell as we were watching the drills. And I said, he said early on, it's like, wow, this is really impressive from Davis. And I was like, I want to see if he can keep it up. Let's see if he can sustain this and,
Right.
kind of show off some of that stamina. Did not disappoint, did not let down. He was really, really impressive throughout the course of the entire workout. A really good night overall, obviously, from Jordan Davis. Who's number 3 on your list?
Well, let's stick at defensive tackle, and I'm going with Travis Jones. And the line that I've been using this week, just talking to a bunch of people and, media and all that, is if you don't get Jordan Davis in the first round, don't worry, because just go and get Travis Jones in the second round out of UConn. And I don't know. I thought he put himself in the top 50 discussion at the Senior Bowl. Now, the first round, I think, is very possible after that combine performance. At 325 pounds, he goes out, runs a 4.92. The jumps were solid, 28.5, 9.2 in the broad. The 7.33 in the 3-cone, that really stands out. The league average for an NFL starter is 7.40. So for Jones to get below that is pretty impressive at that size. I would not be surprised at this point if Jones sneaks into the first round. Only so many guys that offer that blend of fluidity, power, and just upside, because he has yet to play his best football.
Yeah, I mean, in Bruce Feldman's freak list, it was projected he was going to have 7.41 in the 3-cone, and he far surpassed that with that 7.33, which is a really good number, especially for a 326-pound defensive tackle. So really impressive performance. And again, that athleticism showed up in the drills as well, where I thought he had some really good flashes between here and what he did in Mobile, where he showed off that power, that ability to disrupt, and also those movement skills. Just the arrow is definitely pointing up here on Travis Jones, his draft stock, and also his projection and his potential development moving into the NFL. Really, really impressive night from Travis Jones. Number 4 on your list is?
Well, let's go back to pass rusher, and we have to give some love to Virginia Tech's Amari Barno. At 246 pounds, he runs a 4.36 40-yard dash, a remarkable time. That's the best time ever recorded at the combine for an edge rusher. The jumps were great too. Number 1 at the position in the broad, 10.11, and then he had a 37-inch vert. So I thought coming into the week, Barno was a 4th-round developmental pass rusher. He's still young at the position, still growing, still developing. But with numbers like that, a team will take a chance on him somewhere at the back end of day 2. There's too much talent there for him to fall into day 3, I think.
I mean, the athletic background showed up with Amari Barno. You could see just how fluid he is. And even if you just didn't know any of the test scores and you just watched him go through the workout, just really, really impressive with his movement skills, his fluidity, his burst, everything he did just looked so smooth and easy. He was really, really impressive. You see that potential there with Amari Barno, for the former linebacker converted to a defensive end from Virginia Tech. Let's get to number 5.
Well, let's move to linebacker now. So we did two D tackles, 2 pass rushers. Chad Muma from Wyoming, who we've talked about before as kind of, moving up the draft board throughout the year, possibly into that second round. Would he be able to live up to that here at the combine? And I think he did, absolutely. 4.63 in the 40-yard dash, 10.9 in the broad, 40-inch vertical, and he also led all linebackers in the bench press with 27 reps. So Chad Muma, just an all-around strong performance here at the combine with these testing numbers, and only solidified himself as a early day 2 type of guy.
Yeah, and again, just kind of building on that momentum that he started in Mobile. Obviously, we really started with a strong senior campaign, but continued in Mobile and now carrying that over to Indianapolis. Chad Muma, I agree, a really impressive night overall. Let's get your 6th guy.
Well, we started with one of my guys, with Travon Walker. Let's finish with one of your guys, Christian Harris, a linebacker from Alabama.
Yep.
The size doesn't necessarily wow you. 6'1", 226, just over 32-inch arms. So if you don't have that, elite size, you better be a big time athlete. And Christian Harris definitely checks that box. Former corner in high school. He started right away for Nick Saban in Alabama, turned in a 4.44 in the 40-yard dash, and 34.5 in the vert was a little low, but then he comes back with an 11 foot in the broad. So Christian Harris has that speed, has that explosiveness, still has some things to clean up. But I mean, again, bet on the athletes, especially at these positions in the front seven that, those guys usually pan out when they move like this.
Yeah, and again, like you mentioned, this is a guy that came in having not played linebacker for, at any point during high school, steps in year one for Nick Saban. And due to injury, Dylan Moses goes down. A couple other guys in that linebacking core is forced into the lineup as a freshman, never gives the job up. Harris is just a really, really intriguing profile moving forward into the NFL. Dane, you've been awesome all week long with our coverage. We've got one more night here with the defensive backs taking the field on Sunday. Excited to break it all down right here on the Journey to the Draft podcast presented by Life Brand.
Now it's time for Draft Buzz.
All right, C-Mac, let's now transition into the drill work as we welcome in C-Mac, Chris McPherson. C-Mac, this was a really fun night. Like I said at the top of the show, a really, really impressive group from all three positions here as they took the field at Lucas Oil Stadium.
Outstanding night for us to watch and enjoy these athletic pass rushers, the linebackers, the front seven. Not as good a night for those holding the bags in the bag drills.
You're not lying.
Couple times they got run over. I guess they weren't prepared for not just the athleticism, but the violent power that came along with it tonight.
Oh, that's a good point. And look, we're going to be jumping around a little bit by position. We're going to go in order that these guys took the field. And look, Jeff Foster, his team at National Scouting, they do an unbelievable job of putting on this entire event. I would say one thing, when you get to this evening, when you get to the Saturday, the Saturday event, the defensive line and linebacker groups, they're all kind of mishmash. You're going to see some guys with certain body types. One good example, Nick Benito from Oklahoma, 235-pound, edge rusher, potential Sam linebacker, working back-to-back with defensive tackles because he's in the D-line group instead of the linebacker group. It gets a little wacky, but we're going to stay with those groups as they practice. We'll kind of bounce around with who impressed. With this first group, C-Mac, this was primarily defensive tackles, and again, we're going to focus our attention on the position work. The guys that did not participate: Kalia Davis from Central Florida, Noah Ellis from Idaho, who did do a couple of the tests but did not do any of the position work, Jordan Jackson from Air Force, and then Perrion Winfrey from Oklahoma. This was a group I was excited to see, and they did not disappoint. We got to start off with a guy that Dane brought up earlier, Jordan Davis from Georgia. I'm pretty sure at the top of your list in terms of who stood out in the position work, but he did not disappoint for sure.
I mean, I was knowing that you'd tell me, here's who Dane talked about. I said, we don't need to get into who Dane talked about because we know Jordan Davis is going to be at the top of the list, but we have to talk about him regardless. The fact of the matter is, Fran, retired NFL running back Justin Forsett tweeted tonight he's glad he picked the right time that he retired, because when you have guys this big, this fast coming after you now, it might be time to get out of the way. When you're drawing that type of social media reaction, okay, it's time to, make amends with just how good Jordan Davis was. I don't even know the numbers and the jumps, the 40, all that stuff, but his wave drill from the very beginning just wows you with his change of direction ability, and just from start to finish throughout the position workout was just an absolute sensation to watch.
Yeah, and this was, look, I listed him as my number one workout warrior for the defensive tackle group, and I'm going to be honest, I was a little nervous putting him in that spot because, at that size, obviously I was anticipating that he would work out well for a guy with that frame, with that weight. I did not expect him to put on a show like this. And so he far exceeded my expectations, even though I had him as my number one workout warrior. Another guy that really stood out from that standpoint, Logan Hall. And this is a guy that he's a little bit in that hybrid category. Is he a defensive end? Is he a defensive tackle? He played both at Houston, but this is a guy that is really disruptive. And that athleticism showed up both in the athletic testing portion, but also in position work. I was really impressed with Logan Hall. You saw the change of direction skills, you saw the fluidity, the ease of movement, but also just the violence on the bags. I was impressed with Logan Hall over the course of the drills.
Yeah, I thought also had good acceleration in the run to hoop drill, so definitely was someone who I made me take notice as well. Can we just go to Devontae Wyatt? You're talking about violence, just tremendous power in the pass rush drills, And he was able to remain like freaky low, really kept it on the low in the run the hoop drill. Just thought he had tremendous body control, that combination of violence and body control. Just you see just exactly what these defensive guys were bringing to the table tonight. And I thought Devontae Wyatt was outstanding as well in his position workout.
Yep, one of the guys I listed as a workout warrior. He broke 4.8 in the 40-yard dash. We didn't talk about him with Dane. We talked about the other two Bulldogs up front, but Devontae Wyatt certainly deserves some praise. We mentioned Travis Jones earlier with Dane. Travis Jones, certainly a guy that really stood out here this evening. But I want to throw some love to DeMarvin Leal as well. This was a guy that I thought would look good in position drills because of his movement, and I think that showed up here this evening. I think when you look at, again, his ability to kind of navigate through the bags, I thought was impressive. I thought that he handled himself well in the run and club, or in the second take of the run and club, but also the run and hoop. I thought that was the run the hoop drill. I thought you saw his flexibility, his acceleration, turning the corner. That showed up for such a big man. I was impressed with DeMarvin Leal and his performance as well.
Leal got bonus points for me because he was the first one to knock down the guy holding the bag during the bag drills. So that definitely got a check mark for me. Someone who I thought had tremendous highs was Zach Carter from Florida.
Yes.
Lovely bend, power, explosiveness. Just when he flashed, his flashes were outstanding. They were very, very good. So looking down here, because you're looking at my top tier from tonight, we already touched on those guys. Travis Jones was my other guy that I would have included in that. But we're looking at like the next tier, honorable mentions. Zach Carter definitely gets a little shout out from me here tonight.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that he's a player that for most combine winners and things like that, he's not going to show up. He barely cracked 5 seconds in the 40-yard dash, but keep in mind, he's just under 290 pounds. That's not Jordan Davis explosiveness, but that's still a solid showing. And I think when you look at Zachary Carter, what he did in the drills was a little bit better than what we saw from the athletic testing portion. I am glad that you brought him up. Let's transition to the second group now of defensive linemen. And the players that did not test here: Tyree Johnson from Texas A&M, Jesse Luketa, the defensive end, Sam linebacker from Penn State. He had a couple of tests and then did not participate once we got into the drill work. Asezi Otomewo, sorry about that, from Minnesota. He did not participate. LeBrian Ray from Alabama. Kayvon Thibodeau, he comes out and runs, let me pull up the exact number, in the 40-yard dash, and then he called it quits for the rest of it. He ran 4.58 at 250 plus pounds in the 40 and said, you know what, that's enough for me. Didn't do anything else the rest of the evening. So we had no Kayvon Thibodeau for position drills, no David Ojabo for position David Ojabo did go. Cameron Thomas did not go. He got injured on one of his first reps and then didn't go for the rest of the drill work. So those were the players that did not participate, C-Mac. I'm interested to get your sense of your number one player from that second group of defensive linemen.
I'm going with Amari Barno from Virginia Tech. Lean and springy, good bend, was smooth in the run and club drill, showed quick twitch in the body control drill, and even they did some of the linebacker drop drills, this group here, the edge rushers, and I thought he was fluid in that as well. High cut player, but just, very, very athletic. Just looked like he literally could leap out of the gym like a grasshopper with those like lean legs, tight body frame. So Amari Barno was the first one that would come up for me here.
Barno, we talked about earlier with Dane.
Figures.
Was really impressive. Obviously, the athletic testing. I mean, C-Mac, I'm not sure if you're aware of what he did in the 40. He ran
4.31?
Yeah, 4.31 would have been something. He ran 4.36.
4.36.
4.36 still would be. I mean, right now, that is the best 40-yard dash time for a pass rusher, assuming he gets drafted, and I'm going to assume that he will be drafted. That is the best 40-yard dash time for a pass rusher drafted in the last decade. So really, really impressive number there from Amari Barno. He also did an outstanding job with the jumps, but we talked about the athletic testing portion with Dane earlier. I agree that he was really impressive in the drill work. I'm going to go with, first of all, Trayvon Walker, who was the number one player for Dane with what he did with the athletic testing. He was my number one player from the drill work as well. Really, really impressive. The not just the ease of movement, but also the violence in his hands. Every single time he hit one of those bags, that bag went flying. He was really, really impressive from that standpoint. And then just a couple other, just the blue chip players, I want to kind of group them in there all together, C-Mac, because Trayvon Walker, I think you expect that he's going to come in and do well. But two other guys that I had written down as just being really impressive from this group, Aiden Hutchinson and George Karlaftis. Aiden Hutchinson, first of all, just from an athletic testing portion, we kind of knew from the freak list that his 3-cone, which a lot of people point to as a really important test for pass rushers, we had an idea that his 3-cone was going to be really, really good. Bruce Feldman had it at 6.54 last summer, which is like, that's by far, that would have been the best or in recent memory for any pass rusher, like certainly in the last 10 years, but I think going back 15, 20 years. He didn't quite hit that. He still hit 6.73, which is an outstanding number. That's going to be in the 95th-ish percentile when it comes to pass rushers drafted in the last decade, and he did that at around 270 pounds. So Aiden Hutchinson doing what he did in that session, really impressive from the athletic testing. But then you get to the drill work, and he was really, really good. I thought when you get to the run the club, or running club, the run the hoop, I think he did an outstanding job in all of the drill work. For all the same things I said about Trayvon Walker, and then you even said George Karlaftis as well from Purdue. He was another name that I wrote down. I thought he had an A workout from a position drill standpoint. A lot of the same things we've been talking about, I think, showed up with George Karlaftis, Aiden Hutchinson, Trayvon Walker. A lot of the blue chip guys that you were expecting to look good. The reason why this was such an impressive night was because those guys followed through and had really impressive performances.
Yes, indeed. George Karlaftis, I wrote composed violence on the running club drill. Just good pop on the pads, managed to control his body through the edges. Definitely agree with you there. Another one, a school that has produced some good combine testers in recent years. I'm going to throw one for a positional workout. How about Arnold Ebiketie?
No doubt. He was number 4 for me behind those 3 blue chip guys.
Okay. Yeah. Nice mover. Really fast feet. Showed power and bend on the run and club drill. Good again in the body control drill. Good reaction there. And he was fluid and graceful in the linebacker drills when they get him out in coverage and have him work in the open field a little bit. So Arnold Ebiketie. Another one there that I think belongs in this conversation in terms of the top positional workouts here from the edge rusher group at the Combine.
Also jumped out of the gym, 128 in the broad, 38 in the vert. The vert was pretty good. The broad, excellent number, 128 inches for my former high school receiver, linebacker, converted to defensive end in his college career. Ebiketie, I thought, really looked good in the position workout. How about Tyreek Smith from Ohio State, C-Mac? Another guy that I thought did a really good job in drill work. This is a guy that, first of all, working with Larry Johnson at Ohio State, one of the best, if not the best, defensive line coach in college football. You would expect that he would look good in these drills, but I thought he did an outstanding job. And you saw the fluidity. Really, the traits are all there with Tyreek Smith. And I think he kind of falls through the cracks because of all the blue chip talent at that position in this class. But he's a guy not to be slept on. He's definitely got something to work with. He definitely has starting traits moving forward in the NFL. 6'3", 245, a little bit undersized, but I think when you look at his first step quickness, he's got that disruptive ability, shows speed and pursuit. All those athletic traits, they all showed up here. The athletic testing was just okay. I mean, he ran 4.86 in the 40. The jumps were average, but I think when you look overall with what he looked like in the drills, I was pretty impressed.
When you talk about from where we watch, we're probably like about 10 rows up in the lower bowl of Lucas Oil Stadium. It's like right behind where the broad jump is taking place, but it's a great vantage point to take in all of the position drills. And before the drills get underway, Fran, we're scanning the field just to get a sense of the body types and see what type of shape these guys are in from a physique standpoint. And when you look at Tyreek Smith, he has the look. He has the look of someone who'd be coming off the edge in the NFL. I would say I didn't quite rank it by the exact drills, but his 4-bag agility drill might have been the best of the edge rusher group. If not the best, it was right up there. I gave it an A+ for that drill specifically there. So definitely agree with you in that he has the traits. Another under the radar, solid workout overall, Myron Tagovailoa Amosa.
Oh, I like that.
Okay, another quality rep in the 4-bag drill. Just solid reps overall in the pass rush and running club drills. Not the flashiest player. I don't know how he did in the athletic testing, but watching, you could probably say maybe he's not the most athletically gifted, but in terms of using the traits that he has, I thought he did a good job. Just well composed, solid, good technique throughout all of the drills that he ran today. Just no like major blips whatsoever.
Yeah, the testing was just okay across the board. Mostly average. The vert wasn't great, but outside of that, a solid day from Tagovailoa Amosa. I have a handful of honorable mentions. And the reason why I want to throw these guys in here is because this workout group was so good that all these other guys, I feel like any other night in any other session would say like, oh yeah, this would be a guy I want to make sure I bring up. But because there were so many guys that really, really stood out, I want to make sure we don't forget Michael Clements from Texas A&M. I thought had a really good positional workout. David Ojabo from Michigan did a nice job. Dominique Robinson, the pass rusher, former wide receiver in college, a high school quarterback, made the move to defense the last 2 seasons. 0 starts at defensive end under his belt, but has the tools in his body to be really, really disruptive and dynamic off the edge, a speed rusher moving into the NFL. Majay Sanders, I thought, showed some good things. Alex Wright from UAB showing some good things as well. I don't know if you have anybody that you wanted to kind of throw their names in as an aside, but I wanted to make sure I squeezed those guys in there. So.
No, I think you hit them all. I think we touched on all the guys who performed well. We're almost getting to the point where who did we leave out of this group?
Yeah.
But it's because it was that good.
It was.
That's the thing, is from an athleticism standpoint, the position drills were a joy to watch tonight because all 3 of these groups that went, the D tackles, edge rushers, the off-ball linebackers, it was tough to separate because from an athletic standpoint, all very good across the board.
All right, so let's now transition to the third group, and that's the linebackers. Dane hit on 2 earlier, Christian Harris and Chad Muma. Let's get into the players that did not participate in the drill work and the position work. Christopher Allen, the edge rusher from Alabama, is still recovering from that injury. Nakobe Dean chose not to participate in drill work or in the athletic testing. Jeremiah Gemmel from North Carolina. Jake Hansen from Illinois. Aaron Hansford, converted wide receiver from Texas A&M. He could not go. Nate Landman from Colorado, former teammate of Eagles linebacker Davion Taylor. Micah McFadden from Indiana. Actually got a couple votes, C-Mac, from opponents as a most underrated player from this season. So Micah McFadden could not go. Malcolm Rodriguez was one of my workout warriors coming into the week on my cheat sheet, C-Mac. Blew up the athletic testing portion. He did an outstanding job in the 40. Jumped out of the gym. I don't know if he got dinged up or what, but could not participate in the positional work. Brandon Smith from Penn State could not go. And then Balin Spector from Clemson. So a handful of these guys couldn't go in the position work, but that didn't keep a number of these players from standing out. I'm interested to see who's number 1 on your list.
Troy Anderson,
yeah,
the player who went
first. Guy, yep.
First guy. That's another thing is, there should be some kind of, curve for the guy who has to go first and display the drill for everyone else. But nonetheless here, Troy Anderson, Montana State, great week at the Senior Bowl, comes to the Combine, showcases beautiful change of direction in the wave drill, looked fluid in coverage in his drops, just very comfortable from an athleticism standpoint. Doesn't look lost out there whatsoever. Just top to bottom. The wheel route was able to make some nice grabs on the ball. You want to see those ball skills as well. So from top to bottom, I thought Troy Anderson had the cleanest, the strongest workout among the off-ball linebackers here in Indianapolis.
And if you just began listening this week and you missed our conversations about Troy Anderson in previous weeks, a converted offensive player, actually played both ways the last couple of years, but played focused only on defense. This past season as a senior was extremely productive for Montana State, but was former all-conference quarterback, running back, scored 21 touchdowns as a quarterback a couple of years ago as a sophomore. So a really interesting hybrid skill set that you think the arrow is kind of pointing up on his future on defense. So Anderson, I agree. He was the first name I wrote down in terms of having an impressive workout.
Who was next?
The second guy for me was Drake Jackson, the pass rusher from USC. This was a guy that was in the top 15, top 20 of most mock drafts, sometimes in the top 10 of mock drafts back in the spring and summer. The senior season or the junior season didn't go quite as expected for Drake Jackson, but I think when you look at his overall skill set, that athleticism, the position versatility, I thought his workout was really, really good, C-Mac. And obviously, look, he's going to look a little bit different going through some of these pass rush drills than some of the linebackers, but even the things where he's just focused on athleticism, I thought that showed up here, and even the coverage drills. Remember that you mentioned that wheel route with Troy Anderson. Remember the one that he covered, Drake Jackson covered downfield, and he made an outstanding over-the-shoulder catch, reeling in a pass down the field. It's like 20, 25 yards down the right sideline. Drake Jackson, I thought, showed some really, really good things here on Saturday night.
Going through the drills, you could see that he's able to generate good torque through his hips, get the power through there. I thought also tremendous lower body control going through the bag drills. Also at the very end, a couple of these off-ball linebackers did some of the edge rusher drills, and he did the run to hoop drill, was tops in that, and then the running club drill was violent yet in control. So you put together the total package. It's like you said, it's like he could have easily been sort of out of his element being an off-ball linebacker here, but he didn't look that. And then when he got to come home and do these edge rusher drills at the very end, you showed why he's a very complete prospect.
Jermaine Johnson went right after him in every drill, and Jermaine Johnson, who was one of the stars of Senior Bowl week, a pass rusher from Florida State, he began his career actually in junior college and then went to Georgia for 2 years, transferred to Florida State as a senior, led the ACC in sacks, ACC Defensive Player of the Year, goes to the Senior Bowl, tears it up, comes to the Combine. I thought he had an A workout, C-Mac. I thought he did a really good job in position work as well.
Pop on contact in the bag drills. How about the one-handed, you talked about the wheel route and the nice play Jackson made. I mean, Jermaine Johnson, I think, tried to outdo him with one-handed over-the-shoulder grab, looking comfortable in coverage there. Looked good in the edge rusher drills at the end of the night as well. So Jermaine Johnson, yes, carrying that momentum that he built down in Mobile at the Senior Bowl.
Yeah, Jermaine Johnson, really impressive. Who's next up on your list?
How about Brian Asamoah from Oklahoma?
Yeah.
Great balance in the change of direction drills, good reps in the pass rush drills, smooth in and out of his back pedal, more than solid in the coverage drills. And I thought of the linebackers, maybe had one of the better plays in the wheel route to end his night. So top to bottom, I thought Brian Asamoah from Oklahoma had a very strong workout. And he is the one who was the practice player of the week.
He was for one of the squads down in Mobile at the Senior Bowl.
There you go.
He played alongside Chad Muma from Wyoming, who I thought had a really strong workout as well. I thought Chad Muma had a really good performance here. He moved well in reverse. He moved well moving forward. You saw the agility. You saw the ability to finish on the ball in space. I thought that Chad Muma really looked good. And Devin Lloyd as well, I thought had a really good positional workout. I love the energy from these linebackers in general.
Yes,
These guys were always kind of rooting each other on. You heard a lot of chatter down there on the field. I thought that they were just a fun group to be able to take in.
I want to jump a little position here. I have one more guy. Let me get one more guy I want to give love to here from my end, from off-ball linebackers. Damon Clark from LSU. Solid across the board, good footwork in the bag drills, rounded the turn well in the pass rush drills, plenty athletic in coverage. Thought the bag agility drill was his best. But one of those guys that overall, we're going down, we're just kind of like marking after each drill, and it's just everything was good across the board. One of those ones that, again, maybe not those super flashes, but then you just look good. You look down and you're like, all right, this guy had a strong night overall. But, one of the things that, teams are trying to glean from these workouts, not just from the athleticism standpoint, but from the body language. You mentioned how they bring the juice, the energy, cheering guys on. We talked about Jordan Davis, but how about when Trayvon Walker ran his 40, who comes running across the field to give him a big hug and celebrate with him? His teammate, Jordan Davis.
I love that. And he screamed like crazy after the 40 as well, before he ran over. So Jordan Davis giving some juice to the workout there for Trayvon Walker. It was a really fun workout, man. It was just a really fun session to be able to take in with all three of these groups. We're going to continue breaking it down. We're going to talk through some of the big names in this edge rusher class with NFL Network's Daniel Jeremiah. It's time now for Mr. Relevant.
It's time for Mr. Relevant.
All right, we're excited to welcome back to the Journey to the Draft podcast, NFL Network analyst Daniel Jeremiah. DJ, welcome back to the show.
Well, it's great to be back.
So let's go through this edge rush class. Obviously, a really, really talented group. We'll start at the top. Two guys that highly debated. When you have Kayvon Thibodeau, Aiden Hutchinson, is it a matter of fit, or is it a matter of one guy is just clear better than the other? How do you compare and contrast those two?
No, they're very similarly graded. So to me, I think it just kind of beauty is in the eye of the beholder, what you're looking for and what you want. With Kayvon, you get somebody that's just really, really twitched up, really explosive. He can really get speed to power off the edge. There's a little bit of tightness there. And then, some of the play stuff in terms of, take a play off here or there, so you can ding him on that if you want. But, you look over at Hutchinson. I think Hutchinson he just has a wide array of ways to get home. He can win a lot of different ways. He's got really good hands. and he plays, snap to whistle every single play. So that to me was just the small deal that separated those two guys.
Another guy who plays 100 miles an hour every single time he steps on the field, Trayvon Walker from Georgia. Interesting kind of skill set, inside-outside versatility. How do you project him moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, you used the right word, project him, because you have to look at what he did and what he was asked to do at Georgia, but then project it forward. And they have a lot of tight alignments there, so he's playing head up or inside the tackle, or even kicked inside even further. I'm excited to see him given an opportunity to play out on the edge. I think we'll see here with his athleticism, he's plenty capable of doing that. It's just the scheme that they run at Georgia, and you can't argue with them with the success. They just won a national championship. But you can look at a guy like Jermaine Johnson, who I'm sure we're going to get to, from Florida State, was in that Georgia scheme. I think he had 4 sacks. He goes to Florida State. They loosen him up. They widen him out, and he has 12 sacks, and off he goes. So I think you can do that same type of projection with Walker about giving him a little more of a loose alignment and letting him go.
All right, well, you talked about him. Let's bring him up. Jermaine Johnson, a guy that obviously helped himself down in Mobile, had a great senior season, first year at Florida State. How do you see him moving forward to the NFL?
Yeah, he's a ready to go rusher right now. He's long. He's really, really explosive. I think he's going to really put on a show here as well, testing wise. But somebody that you go down to the Senior Bowl, and it was a great opportunity for him to go against some of the better guys, and nobody could handle his power. Yeah. So when you start with having speed and power, and then you can work on adding some other things to his repertoire, but man, you got a great foundation to build off of, and the guy's a great run defender too. He can really set the edge. So he's a complete end. I thought he was one of those guys, the more you watch him and the more you're around him, the more you're like, okay, move him up, to the point now where I think I'd be surprised if he found his way outside the top 10.
I could compare and contrast 2 more guys, David Ojabo, Michigan, George Karlaftis from Purdue, both guys in the Big Ten. How do you see those guys comparing to each other?
Yeah, totally different guys. Yeah. When you look at Ojabo, just really starting to come on late in his career, really, really loose. When you talk about somebody who gets to his top of the rush, he can really bend and flatten. You see glimpses of some of the speed to power with him against the run. It's a work in progress. He's got some ways to go there, but you're betting on the upside. Karlaftis, I think, he's ready to go right now. He's got tremendous power. I think a lot will be made once he measures in about his arm length. He's not going to be real long, but this guy's he's a power rusher who can set the edge in the run game, and is another guy who just plays 100 miles an hour.
I want to ask you one final question. Is there another guy that kind of stands out to you? My guess is you might lean to another guy in the Big Ten, but I'll let you answer.
Yeah, you're leading the witness. Boye Mafe, to me, is one that I'm just excited to see. The more I watched him in the fall, the more I liked him. Then you go down to the Senior Bowl, they couldn't block him, culminating in a 2-sack game. And he's going to test great. I feel like a broken record, but this is a really deep, talented edge rusher group. And I think it's going to be the talk of the combine once this thing's over.
Well, DJ, we'll be checking you out, as always, over on NFL Network. Thanks so much for joining us once again.
Thanks, Fran.
All right, I hope you enjoyed tonight's episode. We'll be back tomorrow because we got the final night of action here in Indianapolis for the Scouting Combine. Defensive backs take the field on Sunday, the corners first, then the safeties. We'll break it down right here on the Journey to the Draft podcast presented by Life Brand.